Just cut yourself. It was at night. I would say it's about a weekday. I was about 12 or 13. All right, guys, how you doing? Mentality ID here. I'm just coming to you guys real quick to tell you the story about how a lot of this was originated, Mentality ID, and how I got to the place I am today. So I have a thing. You can save face or you can save life, but you can't save both. And I have a feeling that someone is going to resonate with this. So I want to be very transparent. I hope someone is able to resonate with this and use some of the information that I'm giving you to help you in your situation. So I'm about 12 or 13 years old at this point, and I'm sitting down in my bed thinking there was some type of relational issue that I was having. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I remember I was extremely sad. I was sitting down in my room thinking, how am I going to cope with these feelings? How am I going to cope with these feelings? How am I going to get through this? This is about 12 or 13 years old. And I remember the light being on, and I heard a voice say, just cut yourself. Now, this wasn't really an audible voice. It was more like an inner voice. I didn't hear a loud audible sound, but nonetheless, I was pretty shocked because I didn't know anybody at that time who had dealt with that. I'm a guy. Guys don't cry, all of that, right? Stuff that we're taught in this society. And now here I am about to cut myself. I mean, there's levels to this, right? So I remember sitting down and I was thinking, and when I was younger, I was in something called Pathfinders. We had this thing called Oshkosh. We traded pins. I had a lot of pins, and some of these pins had sharp edges. And I remember going to my desk, looking at some of these Oshkosh pins, picking it up, slash. First time I cut myself, my arm was bleeding. Went. Smelled it. Something about the smell, it made a connection in my mind. It smelled like iron for me. From there, I was hooked. It took me a long time to get over that. When I would have really intense feelings, cut yourself. Really cut yourself. Cut yourself. And this went on for about 5 or 6 years until one time I went to the hospital for some reasons I'll explain in another video. But the nurse saw my arm. Essentially what would happen is if I didn't sign a waiver that this was not going to happen again, they were going to admit me to basically a psychiatric care unit because it was going to be a liability for them. If they saw me with self-harm and then I went and did something to myself, they would have been liable for that. So they made me sign a waiver saying I wouldn't do it again. And if I did come into the hospital and they saw me with that again, automatic admittance. Yeah, you can guess that was the last time I did that. But that was back in about 2013, 2014. And I believe the last time I cut myself was in 2015, if I'm not mistaken, 2014 or 15. Anyway, nonetheless, men in general, whether it's cutting yourself, using some type of substance or whatever, I know that these are very taboo topics when it comes to emotion and men, masculinity. People say, oh, they don't go hand in hand. Now, I'm not here promoting that anybody should be running around, crying to everybody, their girlfriends, their moms, whatever, their friends. However, I am promoting the right and proper expression of emotion, and I believe it's very important. So I'm going to give you 5 tips, guys, 5 tips that I personally used as a practitioner and a pragmatist to get me through some of these deep depressions. All right, so the first thing I did was I quit social media. At 22 years old, I quit cold turkey. Any personal social media that I had, non-business related, it was gone. Snapchat, Instagram. I had a Facebook as a database, but I never really got on Facebook. What that did for me was with social media, I was constantly juxtaposing myself to other people, looking at these people's success, looking at this, I'm not good enough, comparing myself all the time. It made me very emotionally and mentally unstable. So the second thing I did was on December 3rd of 2012, and I actually have it. You guys probably can't see it, but cold turkey, quit porn, done. 3 months from that day, I didn't watch porn, and how I relapsed, I can tell you guys a little bit about that later. However, in that 3 months, guys, and this is not a moral religious, spiritual advice, right? I'm just telling you what practically it did for me. When I watched porn, social anxiety, brain fog, depression, it heightened, all of it heightened. When I quit, okay, I experienced a lot better mood stabilization, okay? I experienced more clarity of thought, okay? And then in addition to that, a lot of the symptoms that I was having with the depression, it lessened, okay? That's just what happened to me, all right? And, side note, today marks 42 days of me not watching porn, and give myself a pat on the back for that. All right, guys, the third thing I did to get over this depression was I started journaling. Okay, I talked to therapists, friends, and all that, but one thing I realized, right, about a therapist, a friend, a mom, a dad, is that the pen and the paper always have a listening ear, and they'll never get tired of hearing you. So I started something called thepositiveendeavor.com. If you guys are interested, you can check out some of my blogs from there. These are some of the things that I was writing at this time. It was extremely helpful, guys, getting some of those thoughts out, pushing it out, pushing that emotion out. After a while, friends, family, even a paid therapist, there's a limit to that, and they have problems of their own. You guys have to realize that. So I looked at it like I had to look inward and upward, not outward, because I knew that if I was going to get better, I was going to have to, at some great level, help myself. All right, the fourth thing I did, guys, I started volunteering. I've always worked in, with older people, nursing homes. I even work in a retirement community at this point, and I've always been around some type of elderly people, and I've always been into outreach. What this did for me personally was it took my mind off of my problems and shifted, even for an hour, my perspective. Because when you get around people 65, 70, 80, and they start telling you about some of the life experiences that they've had, some of the regrets that they've had, right? Some of the things that they wish they have done. You as a person, as a young teenager, 20, 30, whatever year old, you as that person, it shifts your perspective, and some of the problems that you have, they start to shrink. They don't seem as big. Okay, so I started to volunteer. I've heard a quote say depression is a selfish man's disease, right? I've heard that, and I'm not gonna necessarily go too much into that, but one thing I will say is that getting outside of myself, doing something for somebody else, not sitting in a room with the lights off, thinking about all of my problems and how bad my life is, that helped me extremely. And then the last and final thing is, guys, I had crying sessions. Yes, crying sessions. I'm not one of these dudes who says, I don't need to cry. Here's the thing, guys. I don't drink. I don't smoke. There is nothing to take the edge off for me when I have a lot of problems besides things that my body naturally already does. And that is, i.e., I can write, I can cry, I can work out. And mind you, these are all tips outside of working out. I cried my eyes off. I would go into the car every morning and I had crying sessions. I would cry for 30 minutes to an hour. This is what I did, guys. I let those emotions out. I let my body process them. I didn't go grab a drink, grab alcohol, go have sex with girls or whatever. I cried hard. After, I would dust myself off. I would put on my clothes and I would go to school. That's just what I did. So these are some of the 5 tips that I've used to personally get through my depression, guys. This was a very dark place. Cutting and all of these things, I'm not going to say that's natural, and I'm not going to say that is something that a lot of men struggle with. However, here's what I say is whether it's cutting, drinking, smoking, having sex with girls, whatever, these are all temporary solutions to ongoing problems. So here are just some of the 5 tips that I've used. I hope you guys are able to get some information and value from this. Thank you for your time. I'll see you guys in the next video.